What's going on, YouTube fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For the day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. Teenage beef. We all remember growing up, getting into those teen years, clicking up, figuring out who you gonna ride with, fighting the other kids y'all didn't like. It seemed like real issues back then. But when you think back, the cause of you not liking that other person was probably over some he say, she say, somebody else pulling both of y'all strings, playing the 50, telling you like, yo said he don't like you, then going back telling the other person the same thing to watch y'all both crash. Or with most young men and women, once those feelings kick in, you get your first little dose of puppy love and it doesn't last. It leaves most teens beefing over a boy or girl they can't get over. But when those little back and forths turn into threats, then those threats turn into action, even at that young age, things can get real, especially if adults get involved in a situation. Now you have an older influence guiding you into drama, making it 10 times worse. And in today's generation, teens and young kids can go from fighting to going home, grabbing a blick real quick, thinking that's the way a feud is handled, leaving themselves and others in a real dangerous situation. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we will be taking it to Chicago, Illinois, to discuss a case of some teenage girls' beef about a boy that turned fatal. Back in 2014, 14-year-old India Martin was thriving in her young life, being a cheerleader, playing sports, and focused on making something of herself. India's mother and stepfather understood the environment she was growing up in Chicago. It wasn't always the safest, with gangs and kids carrying blicks young, even to school. They worked hard to guide India in the right direction, even transferring her from her district school to a better one. Like most young girls, India's social life was everything to her, and she had friends. One of her best friends was a 16-year-old girl we will call Kid. Kid would have a fallout with another young lady we will call Ashley. The trio, India, Ashley, and Kid, were all once cool until Ashley and India allegedly got into a little fight. Then later on, Kid and Ashley would start beefing in typical teen fashion over a little boy. It all started on the internet, with the teens taunting each other, going back and forth, and their friends hyping them up and picking sides. Ashley, only 14 herself, was an honor student who never got into any trouble. But as her and Kid continued going at each other, it went from threats to let's meet up and fight after school. It was April 28th, 2014, when Ashley told her relatives she was going to fight, including her cousin, Vendetta Redwood, who was in her 30s, and her uncle, her father's brother at the time, 25-year-old Darnell Flora. Darnell had been shot in 2010 himself, leaving him paraplegic in a wheelchair, but he vowed to look after Ashley after her father himself lost his life to gun violence. Knowing how Chicago is and how things can go left, even just at a fist fight, Darnell caught a bus from home to link up with his niece in Vendetta. They told the 14-year-old if she was going to fight in another neighborhood, she shouldn't go alone. Ashley allegedly had been asking her uncle for a gun to take for protection, in which he kept saying no. But the day she was going to fight Kid, Darnell bought the .38 revolver he had. As Ashley's family and friends met up, she told them she was going to go to Kid's house to confront the young lady and call her out to fight. The teen and her peoples all headed to the young lady's house on the south side of Chicago in the back of the Yards neighborhood. Ashley, who was accompanied by her friends and adult members of her family, was getting gassed up when her uncle allegedly decided, since he was in a wheelchair and couldn't get low if something happened, he would get a gun to Vendetta to hold in case things went left. India just so happened to be at Kid's house that day. It was a Monday evening. The girls were fresh from school, still in their uniforms, sitting on the porch with a few more friends, as Ashley and her peoples approached the home. The teen called Kid outside. As they exchanged words, Kid didn't want to seem like she was backing down, so she was up for the challenge. But somewhere in the mix, it quickly went from what's supposed to be a fight to Ashley having the blick in her hands, trying to fire the gun at Kid. The gun jammed, and someone with Ashley grabbed it, fixed it, passed it back to the teen, and said, "Shoot that B." India and Kid were both on the front porch of the home when shots went off. They both attempted to run back in the house as Ashley and her peoples fled the location. Witnesses on the scene called CPD, who responded to the location to find Kid grazed by a bullet to the arm, but India laying on the floor suffering from a gunshot wound to the back. The young lady was rushed to a local hospital as her family was notified to her being shot. Unfortunately, at just 14 years old, she wouldn't survive. Her mother and stepfather were in shock as they took all the proper steps to make sure India did all the right things. The young girl who loved fashion and music was just a freshman in high school and had a birthday coming up. After news spread, the community was in shock, but detectives quickly got leads. After talking to Kid, she explained how her beef with Ashley led to the shooting. Witnesses on the scene told police Ashley came to the home deep with grown-ups and other teens. They stated somewhere in the mix, a woman passed her a gun and told the teen to shoot. The investigation would go deep, as it seemed adults instigated the death of a teen. Ballistics was done on the bullets found at the scene, leading police to who the gun was originally registered to, a 34-year-old man named Robert James. Robert was tracked down, in which he stated he purchased the gun legally from a place called Chuck's Gun Shop in Riverdale. But detectives asked why after India was shot, they realized the gun was reported stolen. Robert stated he sold the .38 to a man from Atlanta illegally. He was charged with filing a false police report and illegally selling a registered firearm, but detectives still had to get to the bottom of everything else. Eventually, they tracked down Ashley and members of her family, including Vendetta and Donnell. Someone that was on the scene had passed along a cell phone recording of the fight and shooting the police. When Vendetta was questioned, she initially denied being on the scene, but detectives told her witnesses identified her as the woman who passed Ashley the gun and said, "Shoot that B." She would be hit with obstruction of justice, felony mob action charges for failing to contact police and taking the teen to a fight ending in a hit. Ashley admitted to shooting India, even though Kid was her intended target. She was charged with first-degree hit, but due to her only being 14 at the time, she stayed charged as a juvenile. Donnell was confronted about the gun and bringing it to his niece. Police claimed he knew it was a possibility someone could get hurt, and the gun had passed through multiple hands before getting into Ashley's. Police claimed him and Vendetta were just as guilty of murder as who pulled the trigger. Donnell was charged with first-degree hit and weapon charges. A 17-year-old boy was also charged in getting rid of the blick after the shooting. In total, 5 people were charged and India slammed. As vigils for the young lady were held by family and friends, her mother wanted to give her daughter one last present, the birthday party she was planning before she passed away. Everyone gathered with a DJ, balloon release, and all to celebrate the teen's life. As the case started making its way to trial, certain charges started being dropped. Robert, who had no connection to the shooting or didn't even know Darnell, his only crime was illegally selling his gun. He was sentenced to probation. The 17-year-old who got rid of the weapon also received probation. Vendetta charges would be dropped by the state and picked up by the feds, but they eventually dropped all charges as well. Even though she lied about being on the scene, it was no evidence she was the one who passed Ashley the gun. The judge later stated it's not a crime to be related to the shooter. But nearly 5 years had passed, and as Darnell's trial came up, A lot of people testified, including Kill. Prosecutors pointed out the whole thing being his fault because he bought his niece a gun, even though he knew it was just supposed to be girls fighting. His defense was he vowed to Ashley's father, which was his brother, to protect his daughter. Also, he had been shot himself by a teen, putting him in a wheelchair, causing him to feel like in a city like Chicago, even girls had blicks. But he received the brunt of the punishment, receiving 100 years for his role. Ashley got lucky, being charged as a juvenile. At her court date, India's mother walked out. As the then 19-year-old stated, she had since got her diploma, her barber's license, and grown a lot. The young lady stated she wished she could go back to that day. She would have never shot, but being young, she was under the guidance of adults that knew better. She stated everything she does now from this point forth is in India's honor. The judge told Ashley, whose real name was never released due to her age, she was blessed to have a second chance at life, as she only received juvenile life until she was 21. Rest in peace to India. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to her family. It's sad when grown adults get into teenage beef. I understand wanting to protect your family members, but it was just a fight amongst girls. Real protection would have been telling Ashley, let it go and don't go to kids' house at all, especially not over a boy. Not a grown man bringing a blick to get to his niece, and then the gun jammed up. Somebody even fixed it so the young lady could shoot. That's wild. I understand teens can be hitters too, but we gotta do better and try to talk our youth out of trouble, not lead them into it. A 14-year-old girl is gone because grown-ups intervened in a high school beef. So remember, we gotta succeed not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Man, crazy story, man. Rest in peace to India. I just want to say this. I included some of the people who charges got dropped and everything because I want to tie the story in for y'all. I ain't want to leave out no parts or nothing like that, man. But like I said, man, Vendetta, hopefully Shorty moved on with her life. The charges got dropped against her, so she definitely innocent. Even Robert, all he did was sell the blick, man. But at the end of the day, crazy situation. Like I said, Ashley's name was something that I had to come up with because they never released her real name. And the girl Kill, I left her name out of it because they were so young. But yeah, y'all can tie it all together, man. That's how it went down. Leave it in the comments. Remember to definitely be respectful. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. This is another episode of Hood Tales. This your boy Tony 2 times. Love, fam. I'm out.
What's up, fam? It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another video. In this episode of Hood Tales, we'll discuss the case of Tamika Skinner, a devoted mother whose life was tragically taken by a woman driven by jealousy and rage. But before we get into this video, welcome if you're new here to our channel. Please feel free to subscribe, click that notification bell to get notified every time we upload. If you're rocking with the content, smash that like button, share this video with everyone you know. Make sure you watch until the end to hear the full story. All right, let's jump right into it. Imagine falling in love with a man, and now you're at odds with the mother of his children. You try to look past it thinking it'll pass. Maybe she's just bitter for now. She'll get over it. Thinking as long as I hold my position in his life, she's going to have to respect me as his new woman. You even try to be the bigger person at times and continue to give the relationship a chance. You love him and you embrace his children despite the mother's issues with you. But what if your decision to be the bigger person doesn't change much? And now you have no idea the depths of her hate for you and what she's willing to do to get you out of the picture. 39-year-old Tamika Skinner was met with a similar situation when she started dating her boyfriend, 28-year-old Marte Petway. Tamika Skinner was born on May 1st, 1981 in Columbus, Georgia, to loving parents. She graduated from Kendrick High School. Tamika got her master's degree in cosmetology from Virginia College. Tamika also became a certified phlebotomist after attending First Step Health Agency. Tamika also held a job at Walmart in LaGrange. Tamika's father was a bishop, and she herself, of course, was an avid churchgoer. Tamika sang in the church choir and taught dance at the church she attended. Tamika was described as a friendly person who was joyous, humorous, caring, deeply spiritual, and God-fearing. Tamika got married and had 2 daughters. Tamika was a devoted mother who adored her children. Later on in life, Tamika and her husband separated. At some point, she started dating a man named Marte. During the course of their relationship, Tamika encountered issues with Marte's ex and mother of his 2 children, 30-year-old Demetria Johnson. Despite the back and forths Tamika may have had with Demetria, she and Marte continued their relationship. But tragically, things took a terrifying turn one night in July 2020. In Columbus, Georgia, during the wee early morning hours of July 27, 2020, Tamika and her boyfriend went to get a bite to eat at a local fast food chain. At around 1 a.m., after getting food, the couple headed back to an apartment that Tamika was house-sitting at the Huckleberry Hill apartment complex on St. Mary's Road. As the couple was getting ready to settle into the apartment, they were viciously ambushed by a group of assailants. At some point, Tamika was inside the apartment before she was dragged out and taken by the assailants. Her car was also stolen by her abductors. Meanwhile, Tamika's boyfriend had sustained injuries and was left behind at the apartment complex. He frantically called 911 to report what had happened. He later called Tamika's family member to tell them what happened as well. When Tamika's family got to the scene, they observed that the fast food packaging and contents were scattered all over the parking lot, indicating that maybe the abductors had followed Tamika and her boyfriend there. Columbus detectives began their search for Tamika and the people who took her. Detectives tracking Tamika's car discovered it was at an address in Russell County, Alabama, and asked the local sheriff's office there for help. Police and sheriff's investigators were driving on Porter Road of Alabama Highway 169 in Seal when they passed a red Mercedes-Benz SUV that looked out of place to them. They turned back to check it out. When the officers ran the tag, they found out it belonged to a man named Rayvon Phillips, whose address was listed as the same address where Tamika's car was thought to be, according to the sheriff's office. As investigators attempted to make contact with the vehicle, the SUV sped off, initiating a chase involving 8 law enforcement vehicles as the red Benz SUV raced up Alabama 169 to the city of Wetumpka before it wrecked. 4 people were apprehended and taken into custody. 3 of the 4 individuals were identified as 23-year-old Rayvon Phillips of Seal, Alabama, the owner of the car, 30-year-old Joshua Tolbert, and 40-year-old Sean Johnson, both of Columbus, Georgia. And the final suspect was identified as Demetria Johnson. They were all arrested by 6:30 a.m. While detectives questioned Demetria and the three men, investigators continued their search for Tamika and her car. Officers reportedly found Tamika's car partially burned around 7 a.m. A few hours later, at 11:30 a.m., investigators discovered Tamika's lifeless body on the ground in a wooded area off Bush Road. Bush Road is just off a road that connects to Alabama 169 in the same area as Seal. The road where the red Benz was first seen by police and where Tamika was found are within 3 miles of each other. Officers did not say specifically where they found Tamika's car, but it was in the vicinity of where everything had just occurred. They believe the assailants tried to hide her car and get rid of it by trying to burn it, but they were unsuccessful. After an hours-long investigation that took place across state lines, police began to piece together a possible motive and who may be responsible for abducting and taking Tamika's life. According to reports, Demetria's anger towards Tamika had reached a boiling point. Demetria was allegedly not happy about the relationship between her children's father and Tamika and may have been jealous. Demetria reportedly got upset when Tamika questioned her parenting skills to her boyfriend, the children's father. Police believed that infuriated Demetria. Reports say that Demetria recruited the three men she was caught with in the SUV to help her carry out a plot to get Tamika out of the way, allegedly. Demetria is accused of being the mastermind in the scheme to abduct Tamika and then ultimately end her life. For whatever reason, the three men agreed to participate. Investigators say there is no evidence to support that Demetria paid the men. Investigators also believed that Demetria was planning the heinous plot for at least a week. Reports say there were a couple statements that said the intention all along was to kidnap Tamika and take her life. Officers also found a handgun in the vehicle the suspects were apprehended in. They believe that was the weapon used in Tamika's homicide. Police said they think they know who the shooter was, but didn't release the name. All four suspects were detained at the Russell County Detention Facility. They are all being held without bond and charged with kidnapping and capital murder. I was not able to find any updates on a trial date for any of the accused. All of them are innocent until proven guilty. This is such a sad story, fam. What's even more heartbreaking is that Tamika's dad had passed away 10 days before she was murdered on Monday, July 27th. His funeral was that following Friday. May Tamika and her dad continue to rest peacefully. I can't imagine the hurt and pain this family has had to endure. Tamika's children lost their mom over something so trivial and senseless. Tamika seemed like a beautiful person inside and out. I hope the family gets justice. Tamika did not deserve to lose her life like that in such a shocking and brutal way. I'm sure Tamika was aware of how Demetria felt about her, but I don't think she could have ever imagined her taking things to this level. Again, my deepest condolences to Tamika's family and loved ones. Fam, tell me your thoughts on this in the comments below. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of Hood Tales. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times, and I'm out.
What's going on, YouTube fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For the day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. Good girls falling for street dudes has been a thing forever. When a young lady becomes infatuated with someone living a different kind of lifestyle than she is used to, she might become fascinated with the excitement and new world she is being exposed to. But that could sometimes come with a price, because most dudes living that lifestyle know an easy target or green person when they see one, and it becomes a game of mental gymnastics at that point. They make you do everything they tell you to without no questions asked, to the point you lose yourself and become a pawn in another person's game. When a male or female has a personality of dominance, they feel everyone around them should fall in line. And if you have a mind of your own or challenge them in any kind of way, that superiority complex makes them feel crossed and threatened. That you are not bowing down like they are used to people doing. And things can go left if you don't pay attention to a so-called friend's actions. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we will be taking it to San Diego, California to discuss a case of a man's plot to backdoor his homie while using his girl as his partner in crime. Shafar Chavez and Shirelle Wesley met when they were kids. When Shirelle's family moved from Oregon to San Diego, Shafar was 2 years younger than the young man, but had an older brother named Kay, who Shirelle would hang out with often. Both came from pretty good families, parents that provided and pushed them to succeed, but Shirelle would become idolized by the people in his new community, especially the young ladies, as being a good hip-hop dancer, even having an agent, and breakdancing and videos for groups like the Black Eyed Peas. All the young kids looked at him as a celebrity. Shafar was not as popular, but also looked up to by family and friends, as a young lady being focused in life, getting good grades with dreams of becoming a dentist one day. As the friends started to get older, Shirelle started to change for the worse, becoming more focused on the streets instead of dancing, to the point Kay, Shafar's brother, fell back off of him even though they were cool. They were taking different life paths. As time went on, Shirelle became a rapper called Westside Rel, and the young man was still looked at as a local celebrity. But in 2014, at 17 years old, Shirelle made a move that sent him to prison. Him and a few other young men decided to rob a gun store by tying up the owner and taking blitz and money. But they all were eventually caught, and Shirelle was found guilty and given 2 years in prison. While he was gone, Shafar kept excelling in school, making honor roll, being a cheerleader, getting letters from colleges, and on her way in life to do great things. But the good girl still had a crush on Shirelle. So when he started reaching out to her from prison, she was excited and told no one because of his reputation. Eventually, the young man was released. He pulled up to holler at his old homie, Kay, but really to secretly see his sister, Shafar. Kay not rocking with Shirelle no more at that point, didn't have too much rap or conversation, and his mother told him she didn't want that thug around her house, referring to Shirelle. But the slick young rapper had got in Shafar's head right under the family's noses. She began to change, staying out late, smoking, drinking, not really focused on going to college, even though she had offers. Instead, her and Shirelle would sneak off and do their own thing. Eventually, the young man started playing with the young lady's mind, telling her everything that wasn't going right for him was all her fault, and she wanted to do whatever to fix it and to keep her dude happy. Some say things even got physical, with Shirelle putting hands on her. But since Shafar was seeing him in secret, she never told family. But Shirelle had a lot going on, even a wife. After getting married in the joint, to a young lady, but allegedly she got pregnant by another man before he came home. But it was never a divorce filed. Shirell also had a child and baby mother. And even though he did things to make his own bread, he had his own whip, he made Shafar foot the bill on everything. Gas money, grass, drinks, food, even driving him around all day while he was making plays in her car. Typical fashion when a person is being finessed. But the young lady was blinded by love. Most friends of Shirell fell back off of him because he wanted everyone to fall in line and bow down to him. But a few still looked up to the young man, including a 21-year-old man named D'Angelo Sharon, or D-Lo for short. D-Lo was stated to have a tough upbringing, raised around a mother that got high and pretty much left home around 16 and tried to stay house to house, finding his own way, hustling and working odd jobs to stay afloat. Even though he was a year older than Shirell, he looked up to the young man when the two met. Shirell by this time was a known rapper called Westside Rel. He had all the girls, a nice car, both parents at home, kept money. The two men even had matching tattoos, reading triple M's, with most saying the meaning meant money, music, motivation, but others say it meant murder, money, mafia. D-Lo even stayed with Shirell at his parents' house. The two young men would call each other brothers, but somewhere in the mix, Shirell became paranoid of D-Lo as he started hanging with other young men around town. Now in 2017, it's been a year since Shirell and Shafar had reconnected. Knowing he had her right where he wanted her at, the young man started to question her loyalty, showing her a blick one day and asking, "Would you ride with me no matter what?" In which she stated, "Of course." A few days later, Shirell showed Shafar a picture with him, D-Lo, and an older man, and he explained to her he thought D-Lo poisoned the other dude in the picture, that other homie, because he had passed away. He felt like D-Lo was coming for him next, but that was the bait, knowing how to manipulate Shafar to do whatever he wanted her to. On July 11th, 2017, the young couple was doing their everyday routine, riding and smoking, when Shirell told Shafar to clean out the trunk of her car. Then he grabbed a change of clothes and shoes, grabbed the blick, and wrapped it up, putting it in the front passenger seat of the whip. He told the young lady they was going to kick it that night with D-Lo. Because he was 21 and could buy the drinks. Like always, Shafar agreed to pick him up. Side note, D-Lo often appeared in Rel's videos, one called Blood in the Rain, even playing a victim in one of the videos laying in the street, pretending to be hit. As the couple pulled up on the 3700 block of Alabama Street in North Park to pick up D-Lo, the two best friends were laughing, joking, all seemed well. They decided to hit a liquor store. Shafar was driving her car as usual. As Shirell told her, he did not have any gas and he left his wallet and cell phone in his car. He asked her for her bank card to buy the drink, and the two young men entered the store. Soon, noticing all the cameras, Shirell left the store in a hurry, telling D-Lo to make the purchase. As D-Lo returned to the car, they started riding around. The two young men started sipping. It was after midnight now on July 12th, and D-Lo would eventually get a little tipsy, take off his sweatshirt, and fall asleep in the back seat of the car. When Shirell allegedly looked at Shafar and pointed, telling her to be quiet and drive in that direction. She did what she was told, heading far out away from San Diego, and headed towards Vista, California, in a remote area of Twin Oaks Valley Road. Shafar was told to stop the whip. This is where things get crazy. Shirell grabbed the blick, jumped out, opened the back seat of the car, and smacked D-Lo with the joint, waking him up. Dazed and confused, Shirell then grabbed D-Lo, pulling him out the car, aiming the blick while asking him why he had been sneak dissing and disrespecting him. D-Lo stated, "We brothers, and I love you, bro. I would never cross you. Please don't shoot." Shirell stated back, "I love you too, bro. Sorry." And shots went off. Scared, Shafar, who was outside the car, jumped back in and broke a nail, leaving it on the scene. The young couple then drove back to San Diego, with Shirell telling her, "Don't tell anyone anything. Take his clothes, shoes, and gun." And then the two pulled up about 6 a.m. to a neighborhood about 1 block from Shirell's house. They didn't realize a house in the area had a camera that caught the couple hugging and kissing before Shafar headed home and Shirell started walking towards his house. But 30 minutes before, at 5:30 a.m., a construction worker was driving to work in Vista when he noticed a man slumped over in the street with no shirt on. Thinking someone just passed out, the worker jumped out to notice the man had been shot. He quickly called police, who responded to the location on Twin Oaks Valley Road to find the man shot 3 times, unfortunately already gone on the scene. As they searched for evidence, 40 caliber shell casings were found. A fingernail was also found, and a wallet containing the ID of the victim, 21-year-old D'Angelo Sharon. Police felt the woman was involved after finding the fingernail, but didn't know exactly what had took place. A detective noticed a receipt from 12:30 a.m. that same day in D-Lo's wallet from the liquor store. They went to the location and asked for the surveillance video. The video showed D-Lo enter the store with a man with face tattoos and the young lady being the driver. After the purchase, the 3 young people drove off. Detectives was able to get the tag number off the vehicle. They ran it and saw it belonged to Shafar. Detectives headed to the young lady's house and allegedly caught her red-handed with cleaning supplies walking to the vehicle. They showed her a warrant to search the car. The young lady slumped down, knowing she was caught. They went straight to the trunk. A pair of shoes, socks, and sweatpants with blood on them were found. Detectives then entered the home and found the 40 caliber handgun and D-Lo's sweatshirt, as the young man's body was found with no shirt on. Detectives quickly realized the man with D-Lo in the store was wearing the same clothes they found in the trunk of her car. And as they put handcuffs on the young lady, they noticed she had a broken nail that matched the one at the crime scene. She was taken into custody. People in the neighborhood quickly told police it had to be Shirell because Shafar wouldn't hurt no one. Police went to Shirell's house, but the man wasn't home. They informed his parents D-Lo was hit. They were super hurt because they looked at him like a son. He even stayed with them from time to time. They stated Rel would never do that. He looked at Lo like a brother. But with evidence, detectives stayed on Shirell's trail. He was caught later that night walking up a street and taken into custody. Now the young couple were both at the precinct. They tried to communicate through the glass to get their story straight, but detectives peeped the move. They brought in Rel to be questioned first. The young man stated he knew D-Lo. That was his brother. He stated he didn't know Shafar at all and never heard of her. When presented with the footage from the store, detectives asked, "Was that you with D-Lo?" Rel stated no. But once they pointed out his tattoos and the outfit, his story soon changed. The young man pointed the finger at Shafar, stating they were chilling when D-Lo disrespected him. They had words and started fighting. Then the blick fell from D-Lo's pants. He stated Shafar grabbed it and shot. Mad about it, Rel stated he asked her, "Why you shoot my brother?" And then he helped her to try to cover it up. In the other room, Shafar was staying quiet until she realized the dude she was riding for tried to throw her under the bus. That's when she decided to tell the real story of Rel baiting Lo in because he felt like he was switching sides. They were both arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Prosecutors decided Shafar was a good girl that was manipulated and couldn't escape Rel's control, so they offered her a deal to testify on what happened that night for a lighter charge and sentence. She accepted and was sentenced to 6 years for voluntary manslaughter. On October 6, 2018, Shirell's trial started, and Shafar took the stand with her face blurred out due to state law. She explained she secretly started seeing Rel, and he quickly became controlling and wanted everyone to bow down, to be loyal and a yes man, even D-Lo. She stated she was blinded by love. That was her first boyfriend, and she idolized him since they were kids. With her statement and all the evidence, Shirell was eventually found guilty of hitting his best friend and sentenced to 80 years to life in prison. Rest in peace to D'Angelo. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to the family. I'm gonna leave the moral of the story on this one up to y'all. I know people get manipulated and used all the time. A lot of people felt like Shafar was old enough to know better and she got a slap on the wrist even though a person lost their life. But some say Rel was way more advanced and a sociopath and used her for a plot on his best friend. Either way, messed up situation. So remember, we gotta succeed not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Yeah, man. I'm gonna leave it up to y'all on this one. I ain't gonna talk y'all head off no more. Leave it in the comments. Definitely be respectful. Let me know what y'all think about this whole situation. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Y'all already know this your boy Tony 2 times. This another episode of Hood Tales. It's all love, fam. What is going on, YouTube, fam? This your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For the day one, fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Let's get right into the story. The bond between a big brother and little sister is one that's not easily broken. Most are protective when it comes to their younger siblings, especially if it's a boy looking out for his sister. As time goes on, growing up together, of course they might fight, get on each other's nerves, but the love remains strong. Once adulthood hits, circumstances might change. One sibling might leave home for college or just to be on their own, get married, have kids, growing up activities, leaving a relationship with their brother or sister a little different. Y'all might not talk every day, see each other, because once life starts, it doesn't stop. Not to mention, you have siblings that grow up in the same household that once they get older, take two different paths in life. One might be a working man or a woman, the other might hit the streets. You don't judge them, it's still family, but at that point, a line is drawn because you don't want their problems coming into your world, especially if you got kids and that's not your lifestyle. But some have unconditional love for their blood and loyalty and feels like that's my family, they will never cross me or bring harm my way. But sometimes that love and loyalty could be one-sided. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we will be taking it to Rockford, Illinois, to discuss a case of a man accused of a double hit on his own sister and her husband to keep them from testifying. Christina Langston Hill was born on January 21st, 1992 in Chicago, Illinois. Growing up, she attended Armstrong Elementary School before hitting Sullivan High School, then Truman College, all in the Windy City. As she became a young woman, she ended up in Rockford, Illinois, attending college, then hitting the workforce. Said to be funny, a little bit crazy, but cool and loving, Christina was said to be all about family. She eventually had two little boys, but the relationship wouldn't work out with their father. But that didn't stop the young mother. In 2016, she met a young man named Tion Hill, who from what friends and family say, changed the young mother's world. Being a strong young man with good work ethic and a funny personality, said to be down to earth and upbeat. Tion didn't have any kids of his own, but stepped up to the plate as stepdad to Christina's sons, who he loved like his own. The young couple would eventually tie the knot, making their union official, which everyone agreed they had a special kind of bond and were made for each other. Fast forward to 2019, they had a home on 727 Bruce Street, and Rockford. Tion just 28 and Christina 27, they were doing good and looking forward to their future together. Christina had an older brother, 28-year-old Calvin Langston. Calvin was said to be known in the community, but not for all good things, as he was alleged to have strong gang ties. But Christina, being all about family and loving her brother, allowed him to stay at her home with her and her family. Things seemed smooth for a minute, but somewhere in the mix, the situation went left. Calvin left the home after the siblings couldn't see eye to eye, and the couple moved on with their lives. But a few weeks after leaving, Calvin and a friend named Douglas Holyfield pulled up to his sister's home as she was dog sitting for a friend, or dog for out-of-towners. Allegedly, the two men busted in the house on a crazy type time, letting off shots at the dog, taking turns with shots hitting it, leaving it gone. Before the men then left, leaving Christina terrified. They did that in front of her. Her and Tion quickly went to the local courthouse to get an emergency order of protection put on her brother, and it was granted. Also, criminal charges were filed on both him and his homie, including aggravated cruelty to animals, unlawful use of a weapon by a felon, and being in possession of a gun by a gang member. Warrants was put out for both men, and the court date was set for Christina to face her brother in the courtroom on August 8th, in which the incident with the dub took place July 19th, 2019. Side note, it's no information whether Calvin or Douglas was ever arrested for the home invasion, bailed out, or stayed on the run. But at 3:30 a.m., August 8th, the day of court, Rockford police were alerted by shot spotter of gunshots on Bruce Street. When they arrived at the location, they saw a woman laying in the street suffering from gunshot wounds. While checking on her condition, more officers went inside the home to find a man also hit multiple times. They were rushed to a local hospital, but unfortunately, both would not survive. They were later identified as 27-year-old Christina Langston Hill and 28-year-old Tion Hill. The community, family, and friends were in shock. Who would do this to the young couple who got along with everybody and stayed out the way? As an investigation started, a man could be seen running from the house, caught by home cameras shortly after shots went off. Police quickly were notified about the court hearing the couple had the day of their murders, about the protective order against Calvin, who was MIA. Also, Douglas was in the wind as well. They were both wanted for questioning in the situation, as the community held a vigil in front of the couple's home. Other siblings of the two were in shock that Calvin was the suspect, stating the brother and sister were close. Calvin eventually turned himself in, and Douglas was arrested in Chicago. After being interrogated, detectives felt Douglas did enter the home the first time with Calvin, but had nothing to do with the hits. He was taken into custody on the original charges. But information came out, Calvin was mad about the protective order. It was trying to prevent his sister and Tion from testifying on him that day at court, making the original charges of home invasion and the animal situation stick, so he got rid of the couple. Eventually, prosecutors indicted Calvin on 76 counts, including first-degree hit. And as court days started coming around, his lawyer argued it wasn't fair to bring up Calvin's past with police, gang ties, and the original situation with his sister and the dub. But prosecutors wanted gang enhancements, as a picture was painted of a man who would do that to his own sister and her husband, who allowed him in their home to keep them from testifying. As of now, it's been no new updates on the case, and Calvin is innocent until proven otherwise. Rest in peace to Christina and Tion. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to their families. I noticed the brother and sister's families have unconditional love, because even though Calvin was accused, they put him in Christina's obituary. This situation was crazy. Me having 3 little sisters myself, I never wanted or never will want any harm coming their way. I'm not sure what the fallout was about, but no matter what it was, it's not worth turning on your blood. Obviously, his sister wasn't fair after the first situation. And if Calvin did what they are alleging, that's super cutthroat to hit your sister and her husband for something you did. Now you are facing life in prison, and your nephews and family gotta live with that pain. So you didn't just allegedly hurt her and her husband, you hurt the whole family structure because of a court date. It's an old corny saying out there, but it's real. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. There's too many young men living like gangsters, but scared or don't want to go to jail. That comes with being a so-called stepper. You can't get mad when you hurt civilians and people that's not in that lifestyle that go to the police. That's how that goes. And the thing you tried to avoid in the first place, a jail cell, now you still ended up locked up, possibly facing life in prison. So remember, we gotta succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Man, crazy story, man. Rest in peace to Christina and Tion. I couldn't imagine, you know. But yeah, y'all heard the story. Leave it in the comments. Definitely be respectful. Again, everything is alleged. Calvin haven't been convicted yet, so he is innocent until proven otherwise. But this is another episode of Hood Tales. Let me know what y'all think about this one. This your boy Tony 2 times. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Love, fam. I'm out.